guys.
It's Friday. That's what time it is. It's Friday. The Guardians are home. Got a nice little weekend homestand.
They're playing a single A team.
They are playing a professional, low-level professional team, for sure.
Unbelievable.
Oh, I can say this. Hey, happy anniversary to my wife. 4 years.
Oh, you
Rose
better get
Bush
that in.
and G. Bush.
Yeah,
4
yeah.
years today.
4 years, yeah.
What are you doing?
I think
Working?
we're going out to eat or something, but you know that work game is.
Where you going? Anywhere special? 4 years is a step above, like don't go to like a Bennigan's or anything like that. It's got to be a step above.
They can't wear flair.
Oh.
The servers can't wear flair.
Now let me give you this. No, we stopped going to them places years ago. And when we go, there's other people that are automatically on the train. So yeah, there's no.
It's not just you.
Oh no.
And her.
No.
Well, that's what an anniversary dinner is supposed to be.
Yeah, well,
the two of you.
That doesn't work like that. If you've lived in a collective identity community. My mom's birthday is July 8th.
Oh, you got married and your mom's. Oh no, I see.
No, but it's the same thing. So she was like, "All right, so you can either do this the easy way or the hard way. You can go out to eat once
or twice.
or twice. So let's do the one time and get it over with, because I can't just be running around."
I see how that works. Busy show. Guardians trade deadline complete. Stephen Kwan will be in left field for the Guardians tonight. There was a lot of question yesterday as to whether or not he would survive the trade deadline. 4 teams really interested, from what I was hearing. The Padres, the usual suspects.
Yeah.
The Padres, the Mets,
Dodgers.
the Blue Jays, and the Dodgers.
The Phillies were in too.
I think the Phillies dropped out.
They weren't going to give up Painter.
And the Guardians.
I think that ended it.
I think you said this. I've heard this from other people that know the Guardians, and they basically put together a price sheet for all 29 teams.
Yeah.
If they call and they ask for player X, this is the asking price. They do their due diligence. No one met the asking price on Kwan, which honestly should have been a haul because he's got team control.
Yeah.
He's an all-star, multi-time all-star, multi-time gold glove winner. I know the power piece isn't there, but they would have gotten a haul had he been moved.
Yeah,
and they didn't get their numbers, so they stayed.
I said yesterday, I think basically the Padres chose Mason Miller over Stephen Kwan.
You know what? I think that's what it came down to, and honestly, that's not the wrong play for them.
I agree.
It's not.
And now there's risk. I know Mike wants to keep this to a Kwan, and we will keep it to a Kwan. I think there's risk in what the Padres did because they're trying to turn Mason Miller into a starter.
Right.
And he's had so many injuries. I think you just leave well enough alone.
I would agree with that. Yeah.
So I don't know
especially someone that throws that hard.
I don't know that I give up the top 5 prospect in baseball for a closer, but if you're turning him into a starter, I get that.
Yeah.
But I just think it's a risk turning him into a starter.
I agree with that.
And once DeVries went off the board, I think that eliminated San Diego from the Kwan conversation. So when we left at 1 o'clock, Bull and I both said, I think it's either the Dodgers with rushing or nothing at all, or else Kwan's going to be here.
Yeah.
And sure enough, that's how it turned out.
This may be kind of unpopular, but I just feel like at this point the Guardians couldn't afford to move him. I checked the temperature and I was listening around, and usually when you listen to the radio stations or you go different places on Twitter, Guardians fans are kind of laying in the weeds, so to speak, and not looking at anything. But as soon as they talked about Kwan being gone, I mean, there was people calling up like, "Hold on, no, we're not doing that."
Well, that's always the case,
yeah.
though.
But
it could have turned out to be a smart move if they got the right price.
Yes, but I feel like at this moment where you got multiple scandals, people, you already moved Bieber, you not really gonna make no moves. Is it the most questionable thing? Is it really smart to move your popular second best player for prospects, which you don't play prospects?
No, I think that's a fair question to ask him, Jay. I don't know from a PR standpoint how much that weighed into things.
They're going to go through it again in November because it's going to happen. They're going to go through this whole thing again in November, December.
They will.
Because they'll shop him again, and his value will be less.
Did I read Kwan made some comments that he would like to stay here?
Yeah, they all say that.
Well, not all of them.
Yeah, they all say it. They don't all mean it. They all say it.
I know, but I was of the impression that when they didn't get him a year ago, that he wasn't going to stay long term.
Yeah, once you get to arbitration.
The unknown piece to all this is whether Blitzer and his checkbook will be more open to keeping players like this. This is a player the Guardians should keep.
Sure.
This isn't a Jose Ramirez that by all intents and purposes should have gotten away.
Yeah.
This is a guy who has 4 of the 5 tools. He's a gold glover. He's an all-star. He's a good clubhouse guy, good citizen. Like, This is a guy they should be able to keep.
So why aren't they?
And
Well, I think under Dolan, the thought is we can't afford him. But let's see what Blitzer does. This might be Blitzer's first big test if he takes over in time.
no, it's too late.
27?
That's too late.
Well,
to sign him, it's too late.
No, he'll be a free agent, right?
Too late.
Well, but
by
even
that
if
point,
he hits the market,
go to the
it
market.
doesn't mean that you can't sign him.
Yeah, but
I know now you're dealing with everybody else,
Yeah,
but that's
yeah.
what his agent wants to do.
And also, he's sort of in the Bieber camp where he didn't really make a lot of money. Like, he wasn't a high pick. A lot of times, guys who are high picks, when they get the big signing bonus, that carries them to where they don't need to take a team discount, team-friendly type deal, buyout arbitration years and all that, because they got a $5-6 million signing bonus or even a $4 million signing bonus. So they're going to take it to free agency. He's not in that. Just like Bieber wasn't in that. I always thought Shane was a great candidate for a long-term contract, but it never.
I had hoped.
And certain guys put a value on themselves. And the Guardians, I know, have tried to sign Kwan, and he rejected their offer. I don't know what the offer was, but they've tried, and he said no. So he feels like they didn't meet his value, and so here we are. Now, they did it with Jimenez. They gave Jimenez 7 for 105, and then quickly realized, oh, wow, that was a terrible mistake. We have to get off that
wrong guy
money.
to give 7, 105.
But at the time, it felt like the right move. I was thrilled when they did it. I thought it was a great move. He looked like he finished, I think, 6th in MVP voting that season. It looked like the perfect guy to give it to, and it just unraveled. And I was talking about, Zach Meisel and I were talking about this the other night. Do you then go to Kwan and basically give him the Jimenez contract? Since you got off at once, can you now
do it?
I don't think it will.
I don't either. I was having a conversation with some friends last night, text, and we were guessing, like, so what will it take for him? And I don't know that 15 million,
that's light.
20 million.
Well,
like, he's going to get more than that,
that's
but he's
light.
not going to get in the, anything north of 20. I don't see him getting.
The Jimenez deal was, I think, 7. There was some options built in. It was 7 for 105. The difference was he was not to arbitration yet.
Right.
And he is. That makes a big difference.
It does make a difference.
So, but I think it at least provides the framework. It's not the exact same contract, obviously.
Right.
But it at least gives you the framework to get something done. I think Stephen Kwan is a great player. He's a wonderful player.
Yeah.
He's a guy you want in your clubhouse. He is not a MVP.
He's not a
type
difference
elite.
maker.
I almost even want to say that he is at the top lineup. He's a very good player.
Well, for us, he could be, Jay.
He
but
looks
like,
even
where
better.
he'll end up, he'll be a piece.
Yes.
The Dodgers, the
Yes,
Mets,
that's exactly
whatever.
right.
He'll be a piece.
But he looks better in this lineup because this lineup is so awful around him.
Right.
He looks like he's better than what he is. He's a great player. I don't know that he is
You'll
the MVP.
never. Here's my thing is you'll never find out who is truly of that level and what they mean to you if you only have 1 or 2 players. Like you're selling me the fact that Kwan, he's not that good. Who you replacing?
No.
No,
Nobody's saying he's not that good.
No, not. I'm not saying not that good. I'm saying not that good. Like he
doesn't have the power piece.
So if you got 4 out of the 5 tools on the open market, that's 21, 22 million.
Well, the problem, though, the tool that he lacks is the tool that
Is the
in
one that
demand.
pays the most.
And so that's his problem. Like, if he could swap the glove for the stick for the power bat, well, now you're talking probably north of 20, 25 million.
It's like a center in the NBA that doesn't shoot threes.
Here's the thing.
Yes, it is.
So
he can do a lot of things well, but the thing that they most need him to do, he can't.
Well, I need somebody to get on base. They can't do that. I need somebody to score runs. They can't do that.
There's a lot of guys, though, that can do that.
So
they just don't play here.
We don't have any
So
of them.
if the Guardians move, how do they become a better team without him?
Well, the way they could have done it was if they were to move him, Jay, correct me if I'm wrong, they're getting 2 high-level prospects and a plug-and-play.
Probably.
And so the way you do it, G, is that you hit on those prospects. Those prospects become more than Manzardo, okay? Manzardo is a hit.
Yeah,
I think, by
absolutely.
and large, if they
For
had to
sure.
go back in time and do that trade over, they would do that trade again.
100 times out of 100.
Because Savali's done. He's
Yeah.
cooked.
Maybe if they play him against lefties, I would do that. I would say it's a huge hit.
Yeah, I know that's a big talking point. I think we're going to see that a lot more next year. Either way, we'll never know what could have become of the trade because we don't know what pieces were discussed.
Look at the Mason Miller trade. I think that's are they the exact pieces? Who knows? But I think that's at least the framework. Certainly the headliner, DeVries, who's probably 2 years away.
Yeah. And boy, if you could get something like that, yeah.
Yeah, if DeVries hits and
move.
turns out to be who you think he's going to be, he's a superstar.
Yeah. The problem is we've given up pieces in the past, and I brought his name up on the show a number of times, and he's not tearing it up. But a guy like Ernie Clement was somebody that we had here. Do you know how much different our lineup would look if Ernie Clement was still here? Like, no, he's not he's not a game changer, but
he's a margins guy.
I think he's hitting close to 290. He's got 5 or 6 home runs, and I think
and Tyler Freeman this year having.
Tyler Freeman is another guy. Like, dare I bring up his name? But it does. Like, Miles Straw is playing a serviceable center field this year.
Yeah.
And so there have been some guys that we passed off. The Nolan Jones move, I'm sorry. I'm done hearing, well, he hits the ball hard.
No, it's
And
it's
the
time.
advanced metric.
No, it's time.
This guy is not good.
Yeah, I don't know what happened. Like, he had one great year in Colorado. He was hurt last year, didn't have a good year. I was happy when they brought him back.
I was too. I thought we
And-
could see that old Nolan, the guy that was in Colorado.
Those are numbers, and he only plays against right-handers for the most part. He doesn't even face lefties.
Those are against the pitchers he supposedly can hit.
Yeah, so I'm done for like the first couple of months. I'm like, you got to hang in there with him. You got to hang in there with him.
Oh,
all
just
the
a
metrics
terrible
say,
move.
All the metrics say he's going to come around. No, we've seen enough.
Would you? 100 out of 100 executives would say, yeah, take Freeman, give me Freeman back, take Nolan Jones.
But again, this is why I think it's a deeper issue that goes to the core of what are they doing on the hitting side, and why I think that whole side needs cleaned out. I mean, look at a guy like Ramon Laureano, who was here, who looked like he
Did
was
nothing here.
Looked like he was at the end of his career. And
Josh
by the way,
Bell has been serviceable since he left here. Serviceable.
But
He was not serviceable here.
Laureano was a pretty good player in Oakland. Nobody knows him because he played in Oakland.
I know he was.
He was a good defensive player, had some pop in his bat. He came here and looked like he was at the end of his career. He's rejuvenated himself in
He's just a
Baltimore.
trade piece.
And just got flipped. And when that happens time and time again, and then so like Ernie Clement to me is never going to be a cornerstone piece of a franchise.
Not a cornerstone,
but it's a valid.
he's a
point.
guy we need.
It's a valid point that when the guys go elsewhere and regain their stroke or find success, it's like, okay, well, what's happening here that it's not happening? And Tyler Freeman falls into that because I said for years, Tyler Freeman will bat 280, 285 every year. Like, that's just who he is. He goes the other way. He's a doubles guy. He's a little Kwani in, like, he's going to hit for average.
Sure.
Not a ton of power. Does not play a premium position at second base.
I'd take him all day long
He's
right now.
308 right now.
And that's
I know
the
he
thing.
is.
So like now he's turning into the player he was supposed to be, and it's like, okay, well, why didn't that work here? And Nolan Jones, when they traded him away, had the year in Colorado.
So there's two things at play. Is it development? But the other thing, and this is a fair question that I think we need to ask about the front office, it's also talent assessment. Like, okay, so now for every one of those guys that we've moved that got a rejuvenation to his career, Straw, Freeman.
I can't even put Straw in that category.
I know you can't, but he's playing every day and he's got serviceable. His numbers look incredible to what he did here. They do. I mean, if you
said
look
Miles
at
Straw?
and even if you don't put Straw in it, Straw was hitting 180 here.
He's hitting 253.
Yeah.
Now his OPS isn't high, but he is hitting 253,
Bro.
which would be like fourth in the Guardians right now.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. When he was here, he was barely. I don't
And
think he was a
Jimenez-
200 hitter.
Jimenez is hitting 218.
Jimenez it was the outlier that I brought up. There are a lot of other guys that we've given up on and have moved on that have done much better elsewhere than they were here. So that's a development question. But the other question, guys, that I have is an assessment question. How are we not seeing that there's still stuff left in the tank for all of these guys? Look at the free agents we brought in that we quickly knew, oh man, this was not it. Josh Bell was a great example. Who was the catcher? Zunino. He was done.
These guys are analytic based. If they look at their hitting numbers, the first thing you should be thinking about is, guys, should we be reassessing what we are doing in this area? And the question I have is, out of all these other teams that take pieces from other places and get new trains of thoughts and new ways of thinking about stuff, they are in an echo chamber where they develop their guys, they come up through the system, and they only roll with the Guardian system. And if you only rolling with the Guardian system, that's cool if you want to talk pitching, but the hitting is not there. Like, if Miles Straw was batting under 100 and you got 5-6 dudes on your roster right now that are batting under 200, and he's batting 253 this year, What did you think the magician came and saw him? Like I would have to literally look at my process. I would.
Well, I hope they are.
And they are. You saw it in the draft this year.
Yeah, well, they pivoted big time in the
Big
draft.
time. And they went
They're
back
going
to
big and strong now.
They went back to guys who hit the ball out of the park. There's some swing and miss involved in that.
Sure.
But you're never the history backs it up. The numbers prove it. You're not going to win a World Series if you don't hit the ball out of the park. I will take some swing and miss, particularly in today's game. I will take some swing and miss if it brings with it the threat of power. And their first-round pick, Jace Lavalette, not going to play this year. He's hurt, but comes with great power. And there was other guys involved in that too. So where guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark and score 2 or 3 runs in with one swing of the bat. That's what this team has missed for years. They went with this shortstop approach of loading up on middle infield guys.
Well, number 1 overall
guys.
pick, we took a second baseman.
And I honestly,
Like,
I wonder.
Wait a minute, what?
I wonder how much of that traces back to the Jimenez contract and knowing if we take Bizana, we can get off the Himi money. They can get off the Jimenez contract because right after they took him, months after they took him, is when they traded Andres Jimenez.
Yeah.
And I'm not like nobody here was screaming Nick Kurtz. Nobody was.
No,
But
he was in the conversation, to be fair.
But
nobody
nobody
was yelling, he's got to be the guy.
nobody thought he was.
Can you imagine, though?
I know.
This is a guy that is a life changer.
Yeah.
Throw him in the lineup
I know.
with Hosey.
I know.
Oh, my God.
I mean, if anything, Jack Caglione was supposed to be the first baseman that we were supposed to take.
Right. He would have been the guy that we would have probably, if
Well,
not
the
Bazana.
3 guys we talked the most about were Bazana,
Condon.
Condon, and Caglione.
Yes.
Nick Kurtz was not. I mean, I
He
understand
was 4 and 5 on most people's
yeah,
charts.
he was in there, but he was never one of the guys that
No.
He
any
wasn't
of
even
us
that high,
considered.
honestly. J.J. Weatherholt was
well,
in there.
where was he
as another
eventually
guy.
taken? He was taken 4th, wasn't
Third. Yeah, 4th. 3rd or 4th.
Yeah,
I remember
so,
that.
I mean.
But again,
And I saw his
drafts,
name up there. He was up there for a lot of folks. Not one. He wasn't really in the conversation for one.
Right.
But you know what? For all the flack that the A's have gotten, they got that
Hey,
right.
The A's have a lineup. I've said
Their
it before.
lineup's unbelievable.
They got a lineup of gorilla juicers who
And
can
you know,
hit it 500 feet.
It reminds me of the late 80s teams.
Yeah.
Where they just took guys that were mashers.
And I mean, they're playing in a Little League park this year, which helps.
They are.
But
His numbers are. For anyone who doesn't know, can I give you guys Nick Kurtz's numbers real
well,
quick?
guys, he's been in the
It's
league
absurd.
for not even 3 months.
It's
and
absurd.
There's an argument that he had the greatest single game in the history of Major League Baseball.
Yeah.
Go figure.
This season, he has played in 70 games. So as a team, they've played 106. He's played in 70. So
Yeah.
he missed the first month. Gee, this is going to make your knees buckle. I'm sorry in advance. You ready? Mm-hmm. He's hitting .302. He has 23 homers. He has 59 RBIs. And he has an OPS of 1.039.
That's the impressive.
It's
part.
unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
no.
He's
you
paid
should-
for a season. That's a pace to hit
Bro.
over 50 home runs.
That would lead the Guardians in all 3 categories.
Bro.
All 4 categories.
Yeah.
So he got Jose Ramirez numbers, and by far
better.
See, this is my problem. I can't do it. No. Like, so you telling the A's is smarter than you?
They got that. Well, look, he fell to them too. No one else took him. I think he was 4th.
baseball drafts are weird.
They are
because
very
of
weird.
signability, and you take guys who you can sign for less to save more money.
100% true.
It's so weird.
What?
But the A's do a nice job. I'm like, the A's hit on their picks. Tyler Soderstrom was like a 19th overall, 20th overall pick, and he's got 19 home runs in left field. They picked Brent Rooker off the scrap heap. He's got 20-some home runs, one of the best sluggers in baseball.
23.
Shea Langoliers, first-round pick catcher, hit. Jacob Wilson, first-round pick, hit. They hit on all of their offensive first. Now they have no pitching whatsoever, and they just traded their closer in Mason Miller. So, and their defense is suspect, but they've got guys who can absolutely mash up and down the line.
And we have first-round picks that I can't name one of them. That's cooking. Not one.
Go back at what was the stat we gave? I think in the last 15 years, their total first and second round picks, which would be 30 unless they had years where they had 2 second rounds or whatever, but rare.
Well, they got compensatory picks in between. Though,
Yeah.
but-
So I don't know how many picks that is, but they've appeared in 0 All-Star games.
Jeez.
The last 15 years. And so you want to look at analytics, that's an analytic.
I mean, Manny Ramirez was a first-round pick that they developed.
Yeah, man, shout out to Manny. Hey,
Kenny Lofton did an event last night. This is another story I'll bring up later, but we were talking about the 95 team.
Yeah.
And somebody that was in attendance had a shirt with the lineup. You forget
No,
You forget
no, we
Ramirez
don't.
was in the 7.
No, we don't.
You forget that Sandy Alomar was the 9 hitter.
What you mean?
Yeah, Paul Sorrento, I think, hit 8th, and he hit
He
like
was.
25
Sorrento
homers.
was 8, and Kenny and I were literally.
you
I said,
mean?
Kenny, I don't know that wasn't the greatest offensive, most prolific offensive lineup in the modern day baseball era. And he goes, it was.
Yeah.
Like, you give me an argument. Show me another one.
You know what's funny is today,
And they didn't win.
that lineup today.
Would cost $500 million.
Well, no, but I'm thinking like Manny Ramirez might lead off.
Well, yeah, the way
Bell
we look at the
might
game, I
hit
see what you're
second.
saying. The way analytics has changed how we look at
Lofton
things.
would hit 9th.
Maybe.
Vizquel would hit 8th.
You're right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no, you're absolutely right. Because
Baerga might
the
hit
thought
cleanup.
process that was used to build that lineup is gone.
It was Lofton, Vizquel, Baerga, Bell. Murray was 5th.
Yep.
And then like Manny 6th, Tomey 7th.
No, Manny was 7th. Sorrento was 8th. Alomar was 9th.
Well, then who was 6th?
Baerga.
No, Baerga was always 3. He was 3rd.
Okay, wait a minute.
It was
who are we
Baerga
missing
was 3rd. Bell was 4. Eddie Murray was 5. Manny and Tomey had to be 6 and 7.
Tommy
had
was
to be.
6th. Manny was 7.
And then-
at least on the shirt. And I think that
and
was
then
the way most of their
Sorrento
everyday-
was 8, and Alomar was.
I
9.
remember listening to an interview with Mike Hargrove once when he was talking about his lineup and the challenges that talent left the manager.
It ain't that big of a challenge.
No. Here's what he said. He's like, there are some days I think I could take all 9 names, throw them in a hat, and put them on a board.
It doesn't matter.
And I'm
Yeah.
going to win.
Yeah.
But the challenge that it presents, now great, everybody would love to have that challenge.
Yeah.
But the challenge it presented was trying to figure out who before who, like who do I want? He had Ramirez as a second cleanup hitter.
Yeah.
Your catcher,
So you could almost
your catcher was an all-star. You had
All-Star Game MVP.
You had supreme God MCs at shortstop and center field. What are you talking about?
I know.
Like, you couldn't hit the
Then
ball
you
nowhere.
had veteran pitchers like Oral Hershiser
Bro.
and Dennis Martinez, and you had young arms like Chuck
unbelievable.
Nagy.
The best
I can't
uniform-
believe they didn't win.
The
I
best,
can't believe.
the best uniforms, the best stadium, the
best fans.
50,000 every single game.
Albert Bell will tell you they didn't win because in the World Series the umpires were giving the Braves a ball and a half off the plate.
Well,
They
he's not
were.
wrong.
He wasn't
He's not
lying.
wrong. Kenny said yesterday
They wasn't lying.
when he was talking about the 95 season, he said, look, we didn't win. And I know this sounds like sour grapes, and every runner-up can say this, but not like we can. We should have won.
Yeah, we
Literally, the structure of the game was changed to give pitchers that had a lot of cachet, wider strike zones. Can you imagine if that series, and somebody's going to do this, somebody's going to take that series and they're going to run it through the actual
strike zone
strike zone of today.
Yeah.
You will find, somebody told me this, and I never did it, but somebody said 30% of the pitches that were called strikes were out of the strike zone.
Maddox's strike zone is this.
And Maddox was the guy over everybody else, and Glavine did this too. They all did at that point. If I don't have to throw the ball there, I am not going to throw the ball there.
Right.
Period.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah.
And those guys had such good pinpoint control. They put it where they wanted every single time. And as long as that pitch was called a strike, he refused to come over the plate.
You know what's funny? Because a lot of people probably weren't even born that are watching this
No.
one. But last thing that we can move on from the good old days. I remember after that season, they signed Jack McDowell. Now think about
For
this.
a minute.
Mm-hmm. But think about he was the premier free agent.
Blackjack, yeah.
Blackjack
from
McDowell.
the
He
White
came to
Sox.
Cleveland, and I remember the lead to the story I read. It might have been AP. The Cleveland Indians, the rich get richer. Now imagine that today.
30 years later.
30 years later.
30 years
Someone
later.
was saying the Cleveland Indians, the rich got richer because they signed the marquee free agent on the market.
And at the time, that
pitcher.
headline
He
was true.
He was the top free agent pitcher, and he chose Cleveland. And the lead was the rich get richer. And now here we are 30 years later and can't sign the best players to any type of extension.
Can't keep our own best
To
players.
Minimoski.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
how that works.
it's rough being the fan of a low budget, smaller market baseball team. It is really difficult.
There's a piece to be written on what the Twins and what the Guardians have done this year.
I agree with you that what the Twins did yesterday, Jay, was mind
We're gonna
blowing.
get to it.
It's
We're gonna get
despicable.
Because they
I
are
know,
not
I
they
know.
are not a smaller market. They don't spend like a smaller market team.
It's despicable what Pohlad has done to that franchise.